What's going on? I'm here with the legendary promoter, arguably the greatest promoter in the history of sport of boxing. How you doing, Bob?
Really good.
Now you got a big fight coming up tomorrow. Jamel Herring, Shakur Stevenson. What's your thoughts on this fight?
It's a great fight. It's it's something that boxing has had over the years. A man, a real man, in Jamal Herring, two tours of duty in the Marines, an impeccable record as a professional against a young man who people have labeled maybe the next big superstar in boxing, Shakur Stevenson. It's going to be a really good fight, and believe me, Jamal is going to test the mettle of Shakur.
This is a fight that is a hardcore boxing fans fight. Two skilled guys. You're gonna see defense. You're gonna see skills. You're gonna see thinking. How does that bowl with the fans? You think?
Well, I think it'll be interesting. I think that Jamal is not going to let it turn into just a boxing match. He's going to pressure Shakur, and Shakur is going to have to answer the pressure back. I really believe that's Jamal's plan, and I look for a really exciting fight. I know what you're saying. When you get two skilled fighters like this, it becomes like a chess game. And boxing fans don't pay to see chess matches. They want to see wars.
Right.
I mean, obviously, every fight can't be Fury Wilder,
Right.
but this will be an interesting fight.
Now, the winner of this fight, Shakur, once again, he's saying should he win, he want Oscar Valdez. Jamel Herring said he's been looking for Oscar Valdez. Is the winner of this fight going to be able to land the Oscar Valdez fight?
Well, I'm fortunate because both of these guys fight for top rank, Shakur and Jamal. So does Oscar Valdez. And don't forget this tremendous 126-pound champion, Navarrete, will give all of them a good fight.
But does he plan on moving up to 130?
Yeah, Navarrete's going to move up to 130.
Oh wow! So now you
Four of them.
Right, you got four. Wow, that's huge right there. That's huge news there, Bob. Now, you have another big fight, November 20th. Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter. What's your thoughts on that fight?
It's a great fight. It's Bud Crawford, I've always considered the best welterweight in the world. He'll really be tested by Sean Porter. Porter's in your face, he'll rough him up. It'll really test Bud Crawford. I mean, I can't wait to see that fight. I think it'll be a classic. And let's see, the better man will win, obviously. But it's a really, really close pick'em kind of fight.
And where do you see Terrence Crawford moving forward? Should he be victorious?
I think Al has a lot of Al Heyman, BBC, have a lot of good welterweights. There's Keith Thurman. There's Ugas. There's a number of others, not including Spence. We don't know when Spence will be back. So Al and I are doing things together, and I hope very much that we can put that fight together, the two companies, and let's see how we can progress along the way.
Speaking of Errol Spence, Jordanis Ugas, he said that the WBA, they had promised him that he would be able to unify against Errol Spence in February, but now they're forcing him to take a mandatory. What's your thoughts about the sanctioning bodies in the sport of boxing?
Well, there are four sanctioning bodies, and they're all different. I mean, I think the WBC and the WBO, you can figure out why they're doing what they're doing. They follow the rules. The IBF, they follow the rules also, but the rules sometimes are too stringent, and they don't let the good matches get made. There's too many mandatories. But, they're an honest group of people, the IBF people. Now, with the BA, they're all over the place. I cannot predict what the WBA guys will do. I don't think anybody can. And among of all the four organizations, I think the most questionable, as far as decision making, is the WBA. So I can't predict at all what they're doing, what they should do, what they will do. I mean, it's beyond my intellectual ability.
Right. Now, like you mentioned, Wilder Fury, one of the greatest heavyweight title fights. We had George Foreman say the same thing. Mike Tyson said that's one of the greatest heavyweight title fights. Evander Holyfield just said it was one of the greatest action-packed fights he's ever saw. Where do you rate that fight?
The only heavyweight fight, that I've seen that's comparable was the third Ali Fraser fight, the Thriller in Manila. And that fight was hell. It was one guy winning, then the other. Ali started out ahead, then Fraser looked like he was going to knock him out, then Ali came back. That was a great fight. And the difference between that fight and the Fury Wilder fight was the Fury Wilder fight had 5 knockdowns, which made it even more exciting. And Ali and Fraser didn't have the ability in Manila to knock each other down.
Right.
Maybe because each of them took such a good punch. But whatever it was, it's hard. I'm really up in the air as to what was a better heavyweight championship fight, the Thriller in Manila or what we saw in Las Vegas a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
And that speaks volumes because you've been a part of all of these major fights.
That's been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate.
Now, Tyson Fury, he took to social media and he said that Wilder trilogy took a lot out of him, and then Frank Warren, he just came out and he said that Tyson Fury essentially feels like he wants to do away with boxing. He may be done with boxing.
I never heard that. I talk to Tyson all the time. He is assuredly not going to step away from boxing. The question is when he will fight next. And if I had to guess, probably I would say March.
Now, what's your thoughts on the WBC making Dillian White the mandatory?
Dillian White's not the mandatory, and that's what the WBC hasn't done it. Dillian White has an obligation to fight this Wallen, and we'll see. But again, in March, I'd like Tyson Fury's zone man to fight in the UK, and I think among the opponents would be Dillian White or maybe this big English guy, Joe Joyce.
What's going on with Tyson Fury's boxing license in the UK?
I don't know, but I don't think there'd be any problem, having him fight in the UK.
Now, Anthony Joshua, he lost to Alexander Usyk. Now he's in the States and he's looking for an American trainer, it seems, for the Usyk rematch. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought on that is that Anthony Joshua can get 6 trainers, the best. They can get Buddy McGirt, he can get Robert Garcia, he can get Coach K, he can get any trainer he wants. He ain't going to beat Usyk. Usyk is too fast for him, too smart, and it will take Joshua years to learn how to fight a southpaw. He didn't have a clue how to fight a southpaw. Usyk will beat him worse the next time, no matter who his trainer is. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion.
Now, what do you see with Deontay Wilder moving forward? Do you
I think
he
Deontay Wilder is a tough out for anybody, any fighter he fights, because nobody in heavyweight boxing hits harder than Deontay Wilder. It's like he takes a gun with him into the ring, and he can fire that gun anytime, And if you're standing in the way, you're going to get knocked down or knocked out. So Wilder has, a couple of years at least ahead of him.
Do you think Tyson Fury said he's the only heavyweight that could beat Deontay Wilder? You feel the same?
It may very well be, but there's a guy that was on that card. He only has 10 professional fights, and Tyson tells me he will be the next heavyweight champion after him, and that's Jared Anderson, who was his chief sparring partner for the last two Wilder Fury. Anderson is a kid from Toledo, Ohio. Good-looking boy. He's about 6'3", he's young, 21, and he's the closest thing I've seen to Muhammad Ali.
Is it? I heard reports that he could possibly be on Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter.
That is correct.
Is the opponent inside?
Yeah, an undefeated Russian that has about 30 fights or something.
Now, Frank Sanchez was on the undercard. What's your thoughts about him?
Frank Sanchez is a really good, clever fighter. I think he's under contract to PBC. I mean, he's a very, very skilled, good fighter.
Now, you witnessed Sugar Ray Leonard have a detached retina. Errol Spence, he suffered the same injury. How do you think he'll come back with today's medicine, and when do you think you expect him to come back?
Well, what I don't know is there are detached retinas and there are detached retinas. Is it completely detached? Is it partially detached? Look, I'm not a doctor, but I was involved when Ray had a detached retina and how they put it, they reattached it, and it was stronger than it was before. We went through that. But Ray's, as I remember it, detached retina was partially detached. I don't know what the story is with Spence, and I'm certainly not a doctor. It depends on how bad the detachment was as to when or if Spence can come back. But you're absolutely right. Medical science now has improved the chances, because when Ray got the detached retina, the conventional wisdom was the fighter could never come back from a detached retina.
Right. Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate your time.
Bob, real quick.